James here with part 10 of my ongoing series where I'm sharing about my personal study and practice of cartomancy using playing cards. Over the last few installments, we've been going over the meanings that I use when I work with playing cards. And in the last installment, we talked about the 8 cards. So I talked about what the number 8 means to me in terms of an overall theme for the cards. And then I shared all my meanings that I use when I work with the 8 cards individually. In this video, we are one step closer to finishing up with the pip or the spot cards. Those are all the cards that carry a number on them. And so we're moving from the number 8 to the number 9. So in the following segment, I will be talking about the overall theme and energy that I associate to the 9 cards. And then following that one, I will be sharing all the meanings that I work with or use when I work with the individual 9 cards. As always, the deck that's been assisting me throughout this video series is the Tally-Ho playing cards, specifically number 13 in the series. And as I always say, one of the reasons why I like this particular deck is because it was designed by Jackson Robinson of King's Wild Project. So now, without any further ado, let's move into the next segment where we'll be taking a closer look at the meanings and associations that I have around the number 9. And here we are with all the 9 cards in the deck, and for me, my number 1 go-to meaning and association for the number 9 in terms of a theme for the cards is gain or attainment. The 9 can represent wisdom gained from experience, going with the idea of gain or attainment. It's usually attached to some type of wisdom. The number 9 can also represent the peak of an experience or the peak of experience generally speaking. And with that in mind, the number 9 can also represent accomplishment. The 9, being the last of the single digits, can represent a highly spiritual number. For me, it can represent spiritual advancement. And going along with the wisdom aspect of 9, it could represent reaching the highest. Now, with regard to playing card cartomancy, the theme of the 9 can represent either a wish or disappointment. So wish or disappointment. It can also represent gain, going with the gain and attainment aspect. So gain or loss. Another aspect of the 9 with the playing cards, it can represent fulfillment. Now, some catchphrases and pop culture associations that I have with the number 9 are Cloud 9, a cat has 9 lives, a stitch in time saves 9, dressed to the 9s, 9 to 5, possession is 9/10 of the law, and last but not least, the whole 9 yards. So at this point, I always ask this question when it comes to phrases, catchphrases, associations, is this: what phrases or associations do you have when it comes to the number 9? Because those can play into your meanings for the 9 cards. And now with that in mind, let's now turn our attention to the 9 cards in terms of meanings, starting with the 9 of hearts. And here we are with our first card, the 9 of hearts. And this one, there isn't a whole lot to say, but what is going to be said is very important. The 9 of hearts is one of the best cards in the deck because it's known as the wish card. So it can represent wishes coming true, wishes being fulfilled, wishes being granted. And it doesn't matter where it falls in a reading, whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end, it always represents the idea that someone's wish, or the seeker's wish, or whoever's doing the reading, whatever their wish is regarding the situation, it is going to be fulfilled. Now, having said that, it's very important to keep in mind the cards that surround it. For instance, if this card has spades around it, it would suggest, yes, that the wish is going to be fulfilled, keeping with the 9 of hearts and its core meaning. But spades representing problems, difficulties, challenges, and blocks would suggest that there's going to be some difficulty in having the wish come to fruition. So you want to pay attention to the cards that surround this card. Aside from it representing wishes and wishes being fulfilled or granted, this card can also represent some kind of gain, attainment, or fulfillment. Those are all aspects of the number 9, remember, on an emotional level, because hearts is a suit of feelings and emotions. So again, that would be gain, attainment, or fulfillment on an emotional level. And so those are the meanings that I have for the 9 of hearts. And so now let's move on to the next card, which is the 9 of clubs. And here we are with the second of our 4 9 cards. This is the 9 of clubs. And so my chief meaning for this card is that it is known as the time and distance card. So it can represent either a long time or a long way. So a long time representing time and a long way implying distance. This card is also known as a travel for business or pleasure card. Again, keeping with the idea that clubs is the suit of either work or business, or social and social activity. And keeping with the travel aspect of this card can represent a journey, but going with the higher aspects of the number 9, this journey is either emotional in nature, psychological in nature, or spiritual in nature. And again, because the 9 can represent wisdom gained through experience, keeping with the journey aspect of it on an emotional, psychological, or spiritual level, this is known as the quest for the self, right? Because the emotions, the psychology, and the spiritual are all aspects of our inner landscape, our inner self. Now, bringing this back to the business aspect of the suit of clubs, the 9 of clubs can represent luck in business, or some kind of business gain or attainment. With clubs representing social and social activity, the 9 of clubs can represent social progress or social advancement. And because I mentioned that this card can represent luck in business, overall, the 9 of clubs can represent good luck. It's a good luck card. And then the last thing that I want to say about this card, keeping with the spiritual aspect of the number 9, the 9 of clubs can represent a gentle force, nudging you in the right direction. And so those are the meanings that I have for the 9 of clubs. And now let's move on to the third 9 card that we're going to talk about in this video, the 9 of diamonds. And now we're at the third 9 card for this video installment, and this is the 9 of diamonds. And for me, my chief go-to meaning for this card is that it can represent material or financial gain and or attainment. Because diamonds is the suit that represents the material, but also money and finances, and the 9 representing gain and attainment. So keeping with the money aspect of this card, it can represent extra money coming in. It can also represent a check of some kind. So, for instance, it could represent things like a tax refund, unemployment, Social Security, pension, and disability. It would imply things that are not considered the usual forms of salary or income. And again, keeping with the money aspect of this card, it can represent what's known as state money. And so that would imply its secondary meaning, something having to do with local, state, or federal government. Now, just as we talked about with the 9 of hearts being known as a wish card, this card carries a similar type of meaning with regard to wishes. The difference is that this card would suggest the wishes of others on you as a person. So this could be about the wishes of others and how they have some kind of effect on you. Now, this is a card that's also known as an attraction card. And with that, it would suggest others being attracted to you, or that you are attracting the attention of other people. Going with the idea of attraction one way or the other, some types of people that are connected to this card are politicians, actors, movie stars, and models, because those are people that are quote-unquote attractive to other people. Diamonds is the suit of energy, so the 9 of diamonds in particular can represent energy, and specifically electricity. And then the last thing that I want to say, given with the idea that the number 9 represents spirituality and spiritual advancement, this card for me, and one of my favorite meanings, by the way, is that it can represent psychic ability. And so those are the meanings that I use for the 9 of diamonds. And so now let's move on to the final 9 card, the 9 of spades. And here we are with the final 9 card for this video installment, and this is the 9 of spades. So the chief meaning that I have for this card is that the 9 of spades can represent loss and or disappointment, because the suit of spades can represent problems, challenges, blocks, and difficulties. And so with that aspect in mind, the 9 of spades can also represent difficulty regarding either gain or attainment. The 9 of spades would represent adversity and adverse conditions. It also can mean something being out of your control. Now, given the spiritual advancement aspect of the number 9, the 9 of spades can represent fate taking a hand in the situation that you're looking at, or this idea of what's meant to be. Now, playing on the difficulty aspect of the suit of spades, this card can represent pressure of some kind, so you may be experiencing or feeling pressure, or being forced to do something. So the 9 of spades can represent pressure and force. It could also represent, either in the literal sense or in the metaphorical sense, this idea of tearing down walls and demolition. And bringing this back to the spiritual aspect of the number 9 on a spiritual level, the 9 of spades can represent karmic debts and obligations. And then the last thing that I want to say about this card in relation to obligations is that the 9 of spades can represent duty to self and others. And that will wrap up my meanings and associations for the 9 of spades. And there you have it. We talked about the number 9 and all the themes and associations I have for it, and the meanings I have and use for the 9 cards. And that will bring this video installment to a close. In the next installment, we'll take a look at the number 10, the last of the spot or pip numbers, and all the 10 cards. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and I'd like to thank you for sharing this space with me, and I look forward to being with you again in our next video together. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.